Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joe Lyng and I'm a 2018 Nuffield Scholar from Innisteig in County Kilkenny. I come from a beef and sheep farm which has recently been converted into a spring calving dairy farm. My current role is a business manager with Lyng, Ireland. My Nuffield journey has taken me to 10 different countries and given me the opportunity not only to flesh out my study topic of value in the market for grass-fed dairy, but it has also led to a huge personal development, and I am extremely grateful to the Nuffield board for allowing me this unique opportunity. I would also like to take the time to thank the sponsors of Nuffield for the continuous support of the programme. I want to particularly acknowledge my own employer, Lyng, Ireland, for allowing me the time to complete my Nuffield. For the past 8,000 years, dairy has played an important part in the human diet. Depending on the consumer, it accounts for up to 65% of calcium intake and up to 28% of protein intake. In Western countries, 2/3 of the population's calcium intake is supplied by dairy. Alongside calcium and protein, dairy is also a natural source of minerals and vitamins. Collectively and individually, these elements contribute to the development, growth, and function of the human body. It really is, in my eyes, a superfood. However, this has not always been the case. Dairy, as we all know, contains fat. And it is not that long ago, around the 1980s, that a low-fat, or indeed no-fat diet was trending. Consumers were led to believe that fat was dangerous, and products with no fat were deemed healthy. This diet had unintended consequences, and led to many of the health issues that face consumers, particularly in developed countries. There are libraries full of books on what we should and should not eat. However, almost every expert agrees that we'd be healthier if more of our diet consisted of real food or natural food. So where does grass-fed dairy fit into all of this? Firstly, the term grass-fed has many different interpretations. In beef, for example, in the US, 100% grass-fed means animals consume 0 concentrates over their lifetime. In dairy, no such system exists. And from my travels, it is clear to me that it is almost impossible to produce milk commercially without some form of forage or supplementation. A dairy cow after calving will simply go into a negative energy balance, leading to all sorts of animal welfare issues, if not fed adequate dry matter. In saying that, there are some countries that can make up the majority of this dry matter intake through a well-managed grazing system. And Ireland is one of the few countries that can achieve this. But what does that mean to the consumer? And frankly, do they even care? Dairy is dairy, right? Well, maybe not. And here is a study from a German university highlighting that grass-fed is a demand that almost 50% of consumers look for when buying. And for me, the driving factor in this trend is health. When we look at the composition of milk, 87% of it is made up of water. The remaining 13% is made up of milk solids. 30% of that 13% is made up of fat. The protein element of milk is primarily dictated by animal genetics. However, a cow's diet significantly affects the fat portion of milk. Dairy fat is very complex, consisting of hundreds of different types of fatty acids. Many of these are bioactive and can strongly impact on human health. One of these group of fats is polyunsaturated fat, which is a trans fat or a naturally occurring fat, also referred to as a good fat. Within this lies CLA, or conjugated linoleic acid, which is a trans fat. There is a huge body of evidence suggesting that CLA has a positive impact on human health. The recommended intake intake is 0.8 grams per day. However, the estimated intake in Europe, the US, and Canada sits at only 0.21 grams per day. And recent research conducted by Dr. Tom O'Callaghan in Moore Park highlights that grass-fed dairy cows have a significant increase in CLA levels over indoor systems or TMR systems. There is also a large amount of compositional related scientific studies demonstrating the apparent beneficial benefits of grass-based feeding on the nutritional composition of milk. However, clinical data to back this up is currently lacking. Human health studies have shown, for example, that CLA alone has a positive impact on cancer, diabetes, obesity, and many lifestyle diseases, while grass-fed cow studies have shown to have a positive influence on CLA levels, increased omega-3, reduction in omega-6, and that helps out the overall fatty acid profile or ratio. It has higher beta-carotene, giving us that rich colour, and overall it has a lower carbon footprint than an indoor system. However, no study has been done linking grass-fed cows to having a positive impact on human health. And my question is, are we potentially involved in prescription agriculture? Or as a result of our unique farming system, does that have an underlying benefit to human health? On my travels through New Zealand and Australia, I was immediately captured by the A2 milk story. What is A2 milk? Cows produce two types of protein, or beta-casein, A1 and A2. The theory behind A2 milk is that it is easier to digest, suggesting that A1 protein leads to ailments such as irritable bowel syndrome, eczema, and schizophrenia. However, both EU and Australian scientists found no convincing evidence to support these claims. They basically said that they were simply anecdotal. Regardless of these theories, and whether you agree with them or not, A2 milk has changed consumers' minds primarily for health reasons. And it is a good example within the dairy industry of how a health link can explode the category. In 2016, sales grew by 340%. And in the last year, the company's value tripled to 1.2 billion. From my travels, there was also a standout farm visit in the US. I visited Maple Hill Creamery Farm, Paul and Phyllis Van Amberg. Maple Hill Creamery have successfully created a brand from a grass-fed standard. However, I wondered what was different from their on-farm practices to Irish dairy farms. Products on the shelf were marketed as 100% grass-fed. However, when I visited the farm, the diet consisted of about 47% grazed grass. The rest of the diet was made up of alfalfa hay, sorghum silage, and some alfalfa pellets. Products on the shelf, like I said, were marketed as 100% grass-fed. They were also, the standout selling points were that they were organic, they had more CLA and higher omega-3. And Maple Hill Dairy are now the #1 SKU, or the #1 product in Whole Foods in the US. Another great value-add story is Synlait in New Zealand. The company was started by Nuffield scholar Juliet McLean and her business partner John Pennell. This is their infant formula, which is now being sold in China, Japan, and Australia, and is trying to gain access into the US market. The claims that the product makes, or indeed the unique selling points, are that they believe it goes beyond organic, that it is the ideal balance of fatty acids, that omega-3, omega-6 ratio. It is up to 5 times more CLA to boost your immune system and your blood sugar regulation. And it simply is best for your baby. I believe it is within these categories and spaces that Irish grass-fed products can compete in. These examples clearly show that grass-fed is creating value, but they are also making claims that ultimately need to be backed up and proven. It is no longer acceptable to loosely say something about a product or its origin. And transparency is a word that is coming up more and more in food supply chains. With new technology such as blockchain and digital farming, we can potentially take the consumer on a journey, the same journey that the product went on. Ingredia, a French dairy co-op, only last month launched the first dairy ingredients to be certified, audited, and traced in real time. Consumers simply scan the QR code on the packaging, and this gives them the required information. In this case, the blockchain included that the cows had 1,500 meters minimum space throughout their lifetime, that they had a minimum 170 days grazing per year, that it was only sourced from a specific region, which was the Hauts-de-France region, and that there was a minimum price set annually for committed producers, and also a production bonus for being in the blockchain system. So what can the Irish dairy industry do to become world leaders in this space? My recommendations are we need to have a collaborative approach from all industry stakeholders to create an Irish grass-fed definition and standard. I believe that we also need to diversify our ever-expanding milk pool by investing in R&D and create new products. This will enable us to access new markets and a new demographic of consumer. I think we need to commission a study through Food for Health Ireland looking at the health effects of grass-fed dairy. I think we need to continue to target high-end consumers and those who are willing to pay a premium for our products. And finally, I think it is important to investigate the use of schemes for grass-fed dairy farmers. I believe Irish dairy farmers are grassland experts. With new technologies such as blockchain and digital farming, we can potentially have a live system for the amount of grass in the diet, as opposed to the current ESTAS 3-year rolling average system. This would ultimately set us apart from other countries who are exploiting the grass-fed opportunity. This will leave the industry in a better place for future generations to come. Thank you very much.